Alright guys, let's take a look at something that you might not have heard about. Surprisingly for once, it's not a TV show, it's not a film, it's not even an advert. No. Let's delve away from the world of media here for a minute and talk about the Russian sleep experiment, if you believe it happened. We've all wanted to stay up late before, haven't we? I remember when I was a kid I was allowed to go to bed at 10 PM once and I felt like an absolute hero. Not that I went to sleep, of course. I was born with no regard for rules, and I'd stay up to like 1:15 before passing out on the sofa. Well, that scenario is similar to the ones that the Russians found themselves in during the Soviet era in 1947. In the Second World War, the Nazis had a way of keeping their soldiers up and fighting for inhuman hours, focused on the task at hand and able to outdo the opposition. How did they do this? Meth. Good old meth. Germany was basically Bethlehem at this time, but by God it worked. It also made them ridiculously more violent. American and British soldiers were taking so much speed that they could stay up for about 24 hours straight, just going around soldiering, although obviously every now and again they'd soldier past a nightclub and waste about 6 hours there getting on it, but they don't tell you all of that in GCSE history. Anyway, the bloody Russians were like, mate, we need to catch up to the competition. Run with it or get ran over. We look like mugs out here with our soldiers who are sacrificing their own lives sleeping on the job. So they got their best scientists and shoved them all in a room and said, come up with something that will keep our troops up for days. And you know what? Apparently they did. They came up with this gas that was meant to be able to keep you up for 30 consecutive days. But they hadn't trialled it on humans yet, so God bless the Russians. They were swimming in prisoners of war, so they just grabbed a few, bunged them into a room, told them to last 30 days awake and they would be set free, turned on the gas switch and said, let's fucking go. Initially, the men they selected seemed fine. They were chilling, laughing, playing chess, drinking potato broth. I don't know what Russians do, but the point is, they're fine. And they remained fine for 5 days with no sleep. But 5 days, it turns out, was about the limit for, what's the word? Sanity. After that, the men started whispering stuff into the intercom, making paranoid threats, scared for their lives. There were porthole windows the scientists could look through, but they were 5 inches thick, already awfully hard to see through, and then the prisoners started sticking pages from books over the windows, secured by their own shit. That'll do it. This all does seem to make sense, because after much less than 5 days with no sleep, hallucinations can take hold. Confusion and paranoia set in, making it difficult to tell the difference between reality and otherwise. Bit like hallucinogenics really, just much slower acting. During this time locked away, one bloke went proper mad and started screaming so much that he ripped his own vocal cords. Like, literally broke his own voice from too much shouting. After the 15th day, the scientists hosting the experiment were chatting amongst themselves like, look, lads, I can't hear anything through the intercom, I can't look through the window because of, you know, the human shit and whatever book this is. Let's just turn the gas off, open the door and take a peek at what's going on. I am sure they'll be fine. So they did. And they weren't. What they'd gone and done is ripped out their own internal organs and just popped them on the floor, eaten parts of their own bodies, and in some cases ripped out still working blood vessels, just peeling them off like fraying strings on my Christmas jumpers. One of them was dead, I know, shock, and about 4 inches of blood had accumulated all over the floor. There was a lot of mental screaming and madness from the men, but one thing they screamed was very clear: turn the gas back on. But they didn't. They took them all to the infirmary, where the patients all exhibited stronger than human strength, resistance to any injections they were given, and, oh yeah, the ability to remain alive with a spleen hanging out. One of the other subjects died after falling asleep. Due to all the mental behaviour, they were all going to be taken back into the gas chamber to see if that helped. Yeah, I know, sounds smart mate, nice one, but one of the researchers pulled out a gun and shot one of the last 2 subjects. He said that he refused to be in a room with the things that he called no longer humans. They were now something else. And he finally asked the last subject what he was, and the little psycho bastard said he was inherent evil inside the human mind that is kept in check by the act of sleeping. Then the researcher shot him too. I'd have fucking shot him too, to be fair. Something important to bring up is the fact that this story is a creepypasta. A story designed to freak you out and reoccur all over the internet. There is no documented proof of this story or any such experiment ever happening, so that may help you deal with your morbid fascination of it. What it won't help you with is getting any sleep for the next week, because you know that there is a possibility that this story or a less mental variation of it is possible. I personally believe that even though the story is just that, a story, there are elements of it that will no doubt be truthful. It's just finding the line between reality and complete fiction. It may be that a similar experiment was attempted and the subjects were mentally checked out, starving and malnourished, and the facts were exaggerated and changed over time for dramatic effect. But personally, I think the story definitely has elements of truth. Let me know if you believe this story, or think it was fake and should be made into a cheap film directed by Dieter Laser. Anyway, don't worry, if you can't get sleep, you can easily head off to your local dealer now to get a healthy dose of meth, speed, crack, or whatever it is that keeps you awake at night.